Hello, everyone. I'm Mandisa Thomas, founder and president of Black Nonbelievers Incorporated, which is headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia. I am happy to be joining you today for International Atheist Day. I wish it could be in person, but of course, due to the current circumstances, that isn't possible, but I'm happy to be joining you via video today, and I hope you know how special and important a day like this is for us. It is still important that we are dispelling any stigma and negativity surrounding the term atheist and the identity. First, it is a very simple identity, meaning that we don't believe in any gods, spirits, or supernatural beings. Some would further describe it as, the rejection of all existing claims of any gods, which is totally valid, or any other deities, because if we don't believe in any gods, we certainly don't believe in any devils or evil spirits as actually existing. Now, on its face, that's very simple, right? You think people would just accept that for what it is and it be okay. But of course, as we know, unfortunately, it is not. And as you can tell by the focus of my organization for marginalized communities, that this can be much more of a challenge for us. Now, you see me here as a Black woman who does identify as atheist. Now, traditionally, or as we've seen in the public sphere, there aren't that many of us who would subscribe to non-belief or atheism who are openly identifying, right? And there are a number of reasons for that. In my involvement in this movement for going on 10 years now, I've talked to people who want to know, why aren't there more Black atheists, or why aren't there more people of color openly identifying? Why aren't more of us participating in the communities that we know exist? So for those of you who aren't aware but should be, I speak for a number of atheists in the Black community, and I can tell you that, having been raised in New York City in the Black community, it can be a challenge to openly identify. Now, there's always been critique of the church within the community. Don't get it twisted. The Black community is not a monolith. We are perfectly capable of questioning oppressive institutions, especially as it pertains to racial justice, economic justice, rather injustice towards our communities and other marginalized people. The challenge, though, is that there is still an overwhelming and pervasive presence of the church within the community, and there is this perception that not only does the church identify that it is our identifier, but also that it is a support system in a way that people actually need it. Now, some of us, myself included, would challenge that. As we challenge that narrative, because for one, it isn't true, and then institutionally it has been a breeding ground for a number of other oppressive institutions, just like racism, economic injustice, and such. And so these are things that, as a community, it's important for us to talk about, and it's important for us to challenge. Now, it starts with, first, accepting the identity that atheism and being an atheist is not a dirty word, that it is something that we can be proud of. We can be proud of incorporating our identities and our ideals and our practices into our everyday lives. There are a number of us who do good for the world. We want to see as much improvement as possible. And we see this now, even with the current circumstances, right? This is not the first outbreak or pandemic that we've ever experienced. However, it is important for us to look to the science and technological advancements in order to prevent these things from happening and to prevent more people from getting infected. This does not happen without these advancements, and it's important for us to speak up. This is one of the reasons why it's good to band together as a community. And again, it starts with acknowledgments and days like this. Now, community building is important to me personally, as well as to the mission of our organization, because we are still dealing with a representation problem within our own community. And also, we have a tendency to point the finger at the religious community and how they've been oppressive towards others. However, some of us still incorporate those formerly religious beliefs and ideals and kind of bring them into the secular movement and communities. And this is something that we continue to have to discuss and tackle. Now, should it be entirely up to me as a Black woman atheist who is the head of an organization that specifically focuses on the Black atheists? No, it should not. Because the more we see our world changing, the more we see that our communities are changing. It is important for those who have been involved, whether you've been involved in the community for a long time or you're just entering the community, how we engage each other and also how we understand and support the different mechanisms within our community, whether they are online, whether they are or in person, which are they're all very important. How we continue to support and sustain each other will be crucial to our growth and development. I don't want to say survival, because there are many people who are coming out of religion, and there always will be. In fact, we know that there are now the non-religious community is among the largest voting bloc. It's the numbers are growing. It's showing, but how we continue to mobilize is going to be crucial. So, with that being said, once we come to the identity, once we continue to develop our support systems for people who are questioning religion, and some of who are deathly afraid to identify as atheists, and in some areas of the world that could still be a death sentence. It is very, very dangerous at times, but it is important that for those of us who have the capability to organize and speak up and put together events like this, we continue to do so, but it does not happen without the support of the people. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to be in front and center like some of us. However, the support behind the scenes is just as important. So with that being said, I'd like to continue to ask all of you to support organizations like the Atheist Community of Austin, who, if you see here, supported the Black Non-Believers CCon in 2019. They were one of our sponsors. So these are just a few different ways that we support each other. You may have seen me previously on Talk Heathen and the Atheist Experience with our beloved Matt Dillahunty, who is just an amazing individual. Matt was someone who was crucial to my re-identification as an atheist, because of the way he just his no nonsense, matter of fact approach. And that's something that we can appreciate, the fact that there are different approaches to this subject, and also to our the way we relate and communicate. Sometimes it won't be pretty, and that's okay, but the more we stand strong and the more we band together as a community as much as possible, while working on the things that we need to internally, because they are important. So of course, as I said before, my focus and personally and as an organization is to increase the visibility and the representation of Black folks who are atheists, questioning religion in favor of leaving, as well as building up that community and support. And this is done through a number of ways. I just showed you one of them, which is our cruise convention that we started doing in 2017. Hopefully, we will be able to embark on this journey in 2020. Keeping my fingers crossed, not praying on it. But also, too, it is to amplify the voices of women of color in this movement, which is done through the Women of Color Beyond Belief Conference, which is still slated to take place from September 25th through the 27th of this year. You will hear from some dynamic women of color in this movement, and also who are just doing some fantastic and important work as it pertains to human rights, whether it is LGBTQ rights, reproductive rights, racial justice, and also the atheist identity, standing up for our community, which a number of us do. And so also, it isn't just about Black non-believers as an organization. For those of you who aren't aware, I also serve on the boards for American Atheists and the American Humanist Association. I also volunteer with Recovering from Religion. And those of you who follow the ACA and the programming, you may be very familiar with Dr. Darrell Ray, who is another wonderful human being and a very close colleague of mine. We respect each other's work. We work together, and this is amazing. And I also want to point out my co-organizers for Women of Color Beyond Belief, Dr. Sakivu Hutchinson, who is based out of Los Angeles, and Bridget Crutchfield, who is on the board for Black Nonbelievers and who is the lead organizer for our Detroit affiliate. So if you aren't familiar with these women, I highly suggest that you become familiar and get to know our work. Please do support our organization. We are, along with the Atheist Community of Austin, we are a 501c3 organization, and donations to us are tax deductible. If you can see here, we do also have an online store that you can proudly sport our gear no matter who you are. We also have other merchandise for sale that is, if you're familiar and if you've ever watched ACA programming, you've seen being mugs there, you've seen folks wearing our shirts. And so again, it is important that even if you, as someone who is a non-person of color, is not at the center of, is not at the center of the focus, do understand that there are a number of us who are continuing to come out, and mutual support will be needed for not just those individuals, but also for the organization. So in closing, I'd like for you to once again consider supporting the Atheist Community of Austin and its wonderful and diverse programming. Support organizations like Black Nonbelievers, in which there is a number of content. We provide in-person support and community in which everyone is welcome. We also advocate for open atheist and non-religious identification, because if people don't know where we stand, then they really may not know who we are at all. And again, it's important for us, even if you are the type of person who doesn't necessarily like to have those arguments, you feel like you may not be able to articulate it the same way someone like Matt would, or even myself would. It is important to provide that support for those of us who do. Many folks are coming out of the church and they're very jaded by their experiences, which is completely understandable. Religion, I do contend that it is problematic in our society. However, we must understand that as human beings, many of us do have many of the same goals, but that secular communities and organizations still need your support in order to fight these battles that we are facing. And understanding that, again, we don't exist in a vacuum. There are things that we work out, but we work them out with reason and compassion. They aren't enemies of each other. So once again, I'd like to thank you for having me. Please visit our website at blacknonbelievers.org. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and on YouTube. Thank you very much and enjoy your day.